Dr. Kim Tae-ho looked out the large window of his office. The blue and green planet below was not Earth. It was Harmony 3, home of the Galactic Research Center. Tae-ho sipped his hot tea and watched the ships come and go. His office door slid open with a soft hiss. His friend and fellow scientist, Dr. Park Ji-woo, walked in holding a small silver disc. "Morning, Tae-ho," Ji-woo said, placing the disc on the desk. "Have you checked your messages today?" Tae-ho shook his head. "No, I was busy writing notes about the snake cats from Rigel 6. He pointed to the disc. "What's that?" "It's from the Interstellar Research Consortium. They have a new job for you." Ji-woo's face looked worried. "And I don't think you'll like it." Tae-ho picked up the disc and inserted it into his computer. A 3D image of a man in a formal uniform appeared above his desk. "Dr. Kim Tae-ho," the man said, "I am Director Han of the IRC. We need your help urgently. A new predator species has been found on Nexus 9. It has killed 12 settlers so far. We need you to study it and find a way to stop it." The image changed to show a forest world with 2 small moons. Then it showed quick, blurry images of something dark moving through trees. "This is all we have," Director Han continued. "No clear pictures. No bodies found. Just missing people and strange marks on the ground. A ship will come for you tomorrow if you accept. End message." The image disappeared. Tae-ho sat back in his chair. "Nexus 9, he said. "That's on the outer edge of settled space." Ji-woo nodded. 3 months' travel, even with the fastest ships. "And the danger readings from that planet are off the charts." Tae-ho smiled. "When have danger readings ever stopped me?" "That's what worries me," Ji-woo said. "You take too many risks. Remember the floating jellies on Ta City 4? They nearly dissolve your arm." Tae-ho rolled up his sleeve, showing the faint scars that remained. "And I learned that they weren't trying to hurt me. They thought I was food. Once I showed them I wasn't, they became quite friendly." "This is different," Ji-woo insisted. "The report says these creatures are actively hunting humans. This isn't a misunderstanding. These are killers." Tae-ho stood up and walked back to the window. In his 10 years as a galactic zoologist, he had studied over 300 predator species on 47 different worlds. He had been bitten, clawed, stung, and poisoned. But he had always survived, and he had always learned something new. "I've documented more apex predators than anyone in the IRT," Tae-ho said. "If these creatures can be understood, I'm the one who can do it." Ji-woo sighed. "I knew you'd say that. Your bag is already packed. The ship arrives in 6 hours." Tae-ho turned, surprised. "You packed for me. Someone has to look after you," Ji-woo said with a small smile. "I've included the new bioscanner, extra sample containers, and that stun rod you like so much." "What would I do without you?" Tae-ho laughed. "Probably get eaten," Ji-woo said, not laughing. "Be careful on this one, Tae-ho. I've never seen readings like these. Whatever is hunting on Nexus 9 isn't like anything we've studied before." Tae-ho nodded, but his eyes were bright with excitement. A new predator. A new challenge. This was why he became a zoologist. "Tell the ship I'll be ready," he said. "And Ji-woo, thank you for worrying, but I'll be fine. How dangerous can one new species be?" Ji-woo didn't answer. They both knew that in the vast galaxy there were things beyond human understanding. Things that defied classification. Things that could make even the bravest zoologist question their career choice. But Tae-ho wasn't worried. Not yet. The ship landed on Nexus 9 with a soft thud. Dr. Kim Tae-ho grabbed his bags and walked down the ramp. The air was thick and smelled like wet dirt. 2 suns hung in the sky, one big and orange, one small and blue. A tall man with a serious face waited for him. The left side of his face had thin metal lines running from his eye to his jaw. His right arm gleamed silver in the sunlight. "Dr. Kim?" the man asked, not smiling. I'm Troy Dahyun, head of security. Welcome to the worst assignment of your life. Taiho shook his hand. Nice to meet you too. Dahyun pointed to a small group of buildings surrounded by a high fence. That's our colony. 15 buildings, 63 people. Or there were 63. Now there are 48. 15 people missing. Taiho asked, surprised. The report had mentioned 12. 3 more disappeared last night, Dahyun said. He tapped the metal on his face. These implants help me see in the dark, move faster, hear better. I've faced the creatures 3 times. I'm the only one who's seen them and lived. He led Taiho to a small building near the center of the colony. Inside, a woman with short black hair typed on a computer. She looked up when they entered. Dr. Kim, this is Director Lee Sunmei, Dahyun said. She runs what's left of this place. Sunmei stood and bowed slightly. Dr. Kim, thank you for coming. We didn't know what else to do. Show him the videos, Dahyun said. Sunmei nodded and tapped her screen. A large image appeared on the wall. It showed the edge of the forest at night. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then something moved, a dark shape, faster than Taiho's eyes could follow. Slow it down, Dahyun said. Sunmei tapped again. The video slowed. The shape became clearer, long and low to the ground, with too many legs, but still blurry, like looking through water. That's the best image we have, Sunmei said. Our cameras can't seem to focus on them properly. What about the attack sites? Taiho asked. I'll take you, Dahyun said. They walked to the edge of the colony, where the fence met the forest. The metal fence was bent outward, as if something strong had pushed it from inside the colony. Wait, Taiho said, confused. It broke out. Not in. Dahyun nodded. That's what makes no sense. It somehow gets in without triggering alarms, takes someone, and then breaks out. Like it's showing off. Taiho knelt and examined the ground. He pulled out a small device and waved it over the dirt. It beeped softly. What did you find? Dahyun asked. Microscopic residue, Taiho said. Not like any species I've seen before. He stood up. Can you show me where the people were taken from? Dahyun led him to a small house. Inside, everything was neat and clean, except for deep scratches on the floor leading to the door. Kim Bora, Dahyun said. Engineer, taken 3 nights ago. No blood, no signs of struggle except those marks. Taiho scanned the scratches. His device beeped again. Same residue. Whatever this creature is, it leaves a trail. Can you track it? Sunmei asked from the doorway. Maybe, Taiho said. I need to analyze this sample first. That night, Taiho worked in the small lab they had given him. The sample was strange. It seemed to change when he looked at it different ways. He checked the galactic database, but found no matches. Suddenly, alarms blared through the colony. Taiho ran outside. Lights flashed near the fence. People were shouting. It's here, someone yelled. Taiho ran toward the commotion. Dahyun appeared beside him, holding a large gun. Stay back, Dahyun warned. These things are fast. They reached the fence. It was torn open, the metal bent like paper. Beyond it, something moved in the darkness. Multiple somethings. I thought they were alone, Taiho said, staring. They were, Dahyun answered, his voice tight. Until you arrived. Morning came to Nexus 9. The colony was quiet after the night's attack. No one had been taken, but the fence was badly damaged. Taiho packed his equipment into a small backpack while Dahyun checked his weapons. Are you sure about this? Sunmei asked, watching them prepare. The creatures left a clear trail this time, Taiho said. If we follow it, we might find where they live. Or they might find us, Dahyun said, but he didn't look afraid. The metal parts on his face gleamed in the sunlight. They left the colony and entered the forest. The trees were tall with purple leaves that blocked much of the light. Tai-ho held out his scanner, following the invisible trail left by the creatures. They went this way, he said, pointing deeper into the forest. For 2 hours, they walked in silence. The forest grew thicker and darker. Strange animal calls echoed around them. Da-hyun kept his gun ready. "Stop," Tai-ho whispered suddenly. "Look at this." On the ground was a dead animal. It looked like a mix between a deer and a lizard. Its body was neatly cut open, and its organs were arranged in a perfect line beside it. "That's not normal predator behavior," Da-hyun said. Tai-ho knelt and scanned the dead animal. "These cuts are too clean. Made with a tool, not claws or teeth." "You think they use tools?" Da-hyun asked, looking around nervously. "I think they might be smarter than we thought," Tai-ho replied. They continued following the trail. It led them to the mouth of a large cave in the side of a hill. Tai-ho's scanner beeped loudly. "The signal is very strong here," he said. Da-hyun turned on a light attached to his gun. "I don't like caves," he muttered. They entered slowly. The cave was cool and dry. As they moved deeper, Tai-ho noticed marks on the walls. They looked like scratches, but they formed patterns. "Da-hyun," Tai-ho said quietly, "these might be writing." "Animals don't write," Da-hyun replied. "Exactly." They reached a large open space inside the cave. The floor was covered with more dead animals, all cut open in the same way. Along the walls were simple tools made from bones and rocks. "These aren't just animals," Tai-ho said, excitement in his voice. "They're intelligent. They might be a new sentient species." As he spoke, a soft clicking sound came from one of the tunnels leading away from the main cave. Da-hyun raised his gun. "We should set up cameras and leave," he said. Tai-ho nodded and quickly unpacked small recording devices from his bag. He placed them carefully around the cave. As he put the last one in place, the clicking grew louder. "Time to go," Da-hyun said urgently. They turned to leave, but stopped. In the entrance to the cave stood 3 shadowy shapes. They moved strangely, like they weren't fully solid. Their bodies were long and black, with too many limbs moving in unnatural ways. "Don't move," Tai-ho whispered. But the creatures had already seen them. With a sound like tearing cloth, they rushed forward. Da-hyun fired his gun. Blue light flashed, but the creatures dodged with impossible speed. One leaped at Da-hyun, knocking him down. His gun skidded across the floor. Tai-ho didn't hesitate. He pulled a small rod from his belt, the stun rod Ji-woo had packed for him. When he pressed the button, it extended to a staff as long as his arm. He swung it at the creature on top of Da-hyun. The rod connected with a crack. The creature shrieked and fell back. "Run," Tai-ho shouted, helping Da-hyun up. They raced for the exit. The creatures followed, clicking angrily. One jumped in front of them, blocking the way out. Tai-ho dropped low and swept the rod in a circle, hitting the creature's legs. It fell, and they jumped over it. Outside the cave, they ran through the forest, not stopping until they could no longer hear the clicking. Da-hyun stared at Tai-ho, breathing hard. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Tai-ho shrugged, putting the rod away. "All Earth zoologists are trained in combat. Didn't you know that?" "No," Da-hyun said slowly. "No, I didn't." Tai-ho and Da-hyun reached the colony just as the orange sun was setting. Da-hyun's arm was bleeding where one of the creatures had cut him. "We need to get you to the doctor," Tai-ho said, helping Da-hyun walk. They went to a small building with a red cross painted on the door. Inside, a woman with glasses looked up from her desk. Her eyes widened when she saw Da-hyun's injury. "What happened?" she asked, rushing over. "We met the locals," Da-hyun said with a weak smile. "Dr. Kim, this is Dr. Yoon Min-ji, our colony doctor." Min-ji helped Da-hyun onto a bed and began cleaning his wound. "This cut is too straight," she said, looking closely at it, like it was made with a blade. "They use tools," Taiho explained. They might be intelligent. Minji nodded slowly. There's something I should tell you, something Director Lee didn't mention. She looked around to make sure no one else was listening. The attacks only started after the mining team broke into an underground chamber. What chamber? Taiho asked. About 3 months ago, our miners found a sealed room deep underground. The walls were made of metal, but not any metal we know. When they opened it, they found nothing inside, just an empty room with strange writing on the walls. 2 days later, the first person disappeared. Taiho thought about the marks on the cave walls. Can I see pictures of this writing? Minji finished bandaging Dahyun's arm and went to her computer. She pulled up several images. The writing looked similar to the marks in the cave, but more complex. While Taiho studied the pictures, he remembered the samples he had collected from the cave. He took out a small container from his pocket. Inside was a piece of the strange black substance the creatures seemed to be made of. Can I use your lab equipment? He asked Minji. She nodded and led him to a small lab in the back of the medical building. Taiho placed the sample under a powerful microscope. What he saw made his heart beat faster. This can't be right, he whispered. He connected the microscope to Minji's computer and searched a special database, one that required his personal code to access. The computer beeped when it found a match. What is it? Dahyun asked from the doorway. The creatures, Taiho said slowly. They're not native to this planet. According to this, they share DNA markers with samples found on Earth. Very old samples, millions of years old. That's impossible, Minji said. Unless they were put here, Taiho replied. Put in that sealed chamber and kept asleep somehow, until the miners woke them up. Taiho turned to his communication device. He needed to tell Earth Command what he had found. This was bigger than a simple predator study. He sent a message with his findings and waited. The reply came faster than he expected. It was short. CEC all research. Remain in colony. Extraction team EN wrote. What does that mean? Dahyun asked, reading over Taiho's shoulder. It means they already knew, Taiho said. Or they suspected. They didn't send me here to stop these creatures. They sent me to confirm what they are. He made a quick decision. He deleted the message and turned off his communication device. What are you doing? Minji asked, alarmed. If Earth Command wants me to stop, it means this is important, Taiho said. And if it's important, we need to know more before they get here. He looked at the images from the cave again. The creatures weren't just predators. They weren't just intelligent. They were connected to Earth somehow. I need to go back to that cave, he said. You can't be serious, Dahyun said. Those things nearly killed us. Almost, Taiho agreed. But they didn't. They could have, but they didn't. I don't think they're hunting for food. I think they're looking for something. Or someone. He turned to Minji and Dahyun. Will you help me? Dahyun sighed. This is crazy. But yes, I'll help. Minji looked uncertain, but she nodded. Me too. Outside, the 2 suns had set, and darkness covered the colony. Somewhere in the forest, the creatures were waiting. And now Taiho was sure they were waiting for him. Director Lee was not happy when Taiho told her they were going back to the cave. You're supposed to find a way to stop these creatures, not make friends with them, she said angrily. Understanding comes before control, Taiho replied. Give us 1 day. If we don't come back, send your message to Earth Command. They left early the next morning. This time, Minji came with them. She carried a medical bag and a small gun. Dahyun had 2 larger guns and extra power packs. Taiho brought better scanning equipment and his fighting rod. The colony can't afford to lose all 3 of us, Minji said as they walked through the forest. We won't be lost, Taiho assured her. He checked his scanner. The cave is just ahead. They reached the cave entrance and stopped. Fresh marks were scratched into the stone around the opening. "They're new," Dahyun said. "Made since yesterday." Taiho studied the marks. I think they're a warning. Or an invitation." "How can you tell?" Minji asked. "I can't. Not for sure. But they're similar to the old Earth language in my database." They entered the cave slowly. It was darker than before. The tools and dead animals were gone. "They moved everything," Dahyun whispered. "They knew we'd come back." They went deeper into the cave. The main room opened into a tunnel that sloped downward. Taiho's scanner showed strong readings ahead. "This tunnel wasn't here yesterday," he said. "Or we didn't see it," Minji suggested. The tunnel led to a large round room with smooth walls. Unlike the rough cave, these walls were clearly made by tools. Symbols covered every surface. "It's like the underground chamber the miners found," Minji said in awe. As they looked around, Taiho noticed movement at the edges of the room. Dark shapes emerged from holes in the walls. 5, then 10, then more. The shadow creatures surrounded them. Dahyun raised his gun. "We're trapped." "Wait," Taiho said, putting his hand on Dahyun's arm. "Let me try something." He stepped forward and made a series of clicking sounds with his tongue, copying the noises he had heard the creatures make. The largest creature moved closer. It was taller than the others, its body shifting like smoke. It made similar clicking sounds back to Taiho. "What's happening?" Minji whispered. "I think we're talking," Taiho said without taking his eyes off the creature. He clicked again, different patterns this time. The creature's body changed shape slightly. It raised what looked like an arm and pointed at Taiho. Then, to everyone's shock, it spoke. "Human," it said, the word rough and strange. "Old blood." Taiho's heart raced. "Yes, I am human. Who are you?" "We are Keros," the creature said. "Guardians. Waiting for sign. Waiting for old blood." "What sign?" Taiho asked. "What are you guarding?" The creature moved closer. "You come. Now we know. Humans return. Time is here." Dahyun still held his gun ready. "Ask why they took our people," he said tensely. Taiho nodded. "The missing colonists. Where are they?" "Tested," the creature, the Keros, replied. "Not old blood. Not right ones. Released now." "Released?" Minji asked. "They're alive?" The Keros turned its shapeless head toward Minji. "Alive. Return soon." Taiho realized what had happened. "You weren't hunting them. You were examining them, looking for something in their blood. Something that's in my blood." "Old blood," the Keros repeated. "Ancient human. Return to claim." "Claim what?" Taiho asked. The Keros moved to the wall and pressed a symbol. The floor in the center of the room opened. Light shone from below. "Heritage," the Keros said. "Human heritage. Long sleep over. Time to remember." Taiho looked at Dahyun and Minji, then back at the Keros. "Show us," he said. The Keros led them toward the light. As they walked, Taiho knew they were about to learn something that would change everything they thought they knew about humans and their place in the galaxy. Taiho, Dahyun, and Minji followed the Keros down a long stairway. The steps were made of a shiny metal that glowed softly. The walls were smooth, not like the rough cave above. "This is not natural," Minji whispered. "Someone built this." They reached the bottom of the stairs. Before them was a huge round room. In the center stood a tall pillar of light. The light moved and changed colors, like it was alive. "What is this place?" Taiho asked the Keros. "Knowledge Vault," the Keros replied. Its dark body shifted like smoke. "Human history. True history." The Keros led them to the pillar of light. As they got closer, Taiho could see images inside it. Stars, planets, ships moving between them. "Touch," the Keros said, pointing to the light. Taiho looked at his friends. Dahyun shook his head, but Minji nodded. Taiho took a deep breath and put his hand into the light. The moment he touched it, the room changed. Images appeared all around them. They saw Earth, but not the Earth they knew. This Earth had huge cities that spread across entire continents. Ships bigger than mountains flew from its surface into space. "What are we seeing?" Minji asked, her voice filled with wonder. "The past," Taiho said as understanding filled his mind. "The ancient past of humanity." The images showed humans traveling to other planets, building cities on new worlds, creating new technologies that seemed like magic. "This can't be right," Dahyun said. "Humans only left Earth 300 years ago. We were stuck on one planet until we invented space travel. That's what we were taught," Taiho said. "But this shows something different. Human empire," the Keros said, "ruled stars many millions of years ago." The images changed to show a terrible war, planets being destroyed, humans fighting against other humans. Then darkness, as if the light of civilization had gone out. Ancient humans were far more advanced than we are now, Taiho explained as the knowledge flowed into him. They spread across thousands of worlds, but they fought a civil war that nearly destroyed everything. "And the Keros?" Minji asked. "What are they?" "We are guardians," the Keros answered, "created by humans, to protect most dangerous knowledge, to wait for right time." Taiho nodded. "They're artificial beings. The ancient humans created them to guard their most powerful technologies. When the war threatened to destroy everything, they hid these vaults across the galaxy and put the Keros to sleep." "Why wake up now?" Dahyun asked the creature. "Blood signal," the Keros said, pointing at Taiho. "His blood has marker. Time is right for humans to remember." Taiho looked at his hands. "Something in my DNA triggered them. The ancient humans put genetic markers in their descendants. When we evolved back to a certain level, the markers would be recognized by the guardians." The light pillar flickered, showing a map of stars. Red dots appeared on several planets. "More vaults," the Keros explained. "More knowledge, more guardians. Are you saying there are more places like this?" Minji asked. "Hidden across the galaxy." The Keros made a motion that seemed like nodding. "Many. All waiting. All with pieces." Taiho understood. The ancient humans didn't put all their knowledge in one place. They split it up. So if someone found one vault, they wouldn't have everything. "Smart," Dahyun admitted. "But why hide their history?" Minji asked. "Why wouldn't they want their descendants to know who they were?" The images in the light changed again. They showed weapons that could destroy stars, machines that could change reality itself, technologies beyond understanding. "Power," the Keros said simply. "Too much power. Destroyed themselves once. Must be careful now." Taiho stepped back from the light pillar. His mind was racing. Humans weren't just another young species finding their way in the galaxy. They were the returned children of an ancient, powerful civilization. And now that civilization's guardians had recognized them and were ready to share their dangerous legacy. "We need to be careful with this knowledge," Taiho said. "Very careful." As Taiho, Minji, and Dahyun studied the knowledge vault, a loud noise came from above. It sounded like ships landing. "Someone's here," Dahyun said, checking his gun. The Keros moved quickly, its dark body flowing toward the stairs. "Danger. Not right blood. Many come." Taiho's communication device beeped. He turned it on and heard Director Lee's voice. "Dr. Kim, Earth Command arrived early. I told them where you went. They're coming for you now." "Who exactly came?" Taiho asked, suddenly worried. "Commander Kang Du-yun and his Special Forces team," Lee replied. 20 soldiers with heavy weapons. Taiho's face went pale. "Du-yun, are you sure?" "Yes. Do you know him?" "We went to academy together," Taiho said. "He's not just a commander. He's from Earth Intelligence Division." He turned off the device and looked at his friends. "We have a problem. Earth Command didn't send regular forces. They sent EID." "What's EID?" Minji asked. "Earth Intelligence Division. They handle secrets. Big secrets." Tahoe turned to the Keros. "Is there another way out of here?" Before the Keros could answer, they heard boots on the metal stairs. Many people were coming down. "Hide," the Keros said, pointing to a dark corner of the room. They quickly moved to the corner. The Keros touched the wall, and a hidden door opened. They slipped inside just as the first soldiers entered the main room. Through a small crack in the door, they watched as more soldiers came in. Behind them was a tall man in a black uniform with silver stars on the shoulders. His face was handsome but cold. "Commander Kang Du-yun," Tahoe whispered. Du-yun walked straight to the light pillar. He studied it with a smile on his face. "At last," he said, "proof of what we've suspected for years." One of the soldiers approached him. "Sir, there's no sign of Dr. Kim or the colonists." "Keep looking," Du-yun ordered. "They're here somewhere. The tracking device in Dr. Kim's scanner confirms it." Tahoe checked his equipment. The scanner was blinking with a small red light he had never noticed before. "They'd been tracking me all along," he whispered. "This whole mission was planned." "What do you mean?" Minji asked. Earth Command already knew about the ancient humans. They'd been searching for the vaults. They sent me here hoping I would find this place. Da-hyun frowned. "But why you?" Before Tahoe could answer, the door to their hiding place was pulled open. 4 soldiers pointed guns at them. "Found them, Commander," one soldier called. Du-yun walked over, his smile growing when he saw Tahoe. "Dr. Kim, how nice to see you again. It's been, what, 5 years?" "7, Tahoe replied coldly. "Come out, all of you," Du-yun ordered. They were led back to the main room. More soldiers had arrived. Some were setting up equipment around the light pillar. "What are you doing, Du-yun?" Tahoe asked. "Completing my mission, finding and securing ancient human technology." Du-yun looked around the room with hungry eyes. "Do you know how long Earth intelligence has been looking for a place like this? Centuries. We found hints, pieces of the puzzle, but never a complete vault." "The Keros said we need to be careful with this knowledge," Tahoe warned. "The what?" Du-yun asked, then shook his head. "Oh, you mean the shadow creatures. Don't worry about them." As if on cue, 2 soldiers dragged in a Keros. It wasn't moving. Its dark body seemed duller, like it was hurt. "What have you done?" Tahoe demanded. "Neutralized a threat," Du-yun said simply. "These guardians, as you call them, are just tools, old technology. And now we have better technology." He pointed to the light pillar. "That contains weapons that will make Earth the true power in the galaxy. No more playing nice with alien species. No more sharing resources." "You don't understand what you're doing," Tahoe said. "This power destroys the ancient humans." Du-yun laughed. "We won't make their mistakes." Suddenly, Minji cried out and fell to the floor. Blood spread across her shirt from a small wound in her side. "Minji." Da-hyun knelt beside her. Tahoe looked up at Du-yun, who was holding a small gun. "Why did you do that?" "To show I'm serious," Du-yun said coldly. "Now you're going to help us access the vault's full database, or your other friend dies next." Tahoe looked at Minji lying on the floor. Da-hyun was pressing his hand against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her face was pale. "Let me help her," Tahoe said to Du-yun. "Then we can talk." Du-yun nodded. "You have 2 minutes." Tahoe knelt beside Minji. He opened her medical bag and found bandages. As he worked to stop the bleeding, he leaned close to Da-hyun's ear. "When I give the signal, get Minji behind the light pillar," he whispered very softly. Da-hyun gave a small nod. Tahoe finished bandaging Minji's wound. He stood up and faced Du-yun. "I'll help you," he said. But you must promise not to hurt my friends. Do Yun smiled. Of course. I'm not a monster, Taiho. I'm a patriot. I want what's best for Earth. So do I, Taiho replied. But we disagree on what that is. He walked slowly toward the light pillar. The soldiers watched him carefully. Du Yun followed close behind. How do we access the full database? Du Yun asked. Taiho pointed to the pillar. I need to touch it again. It responds to my DNA. Du Yun waved his hand. Go ahead. Taiho reached toward the light, but instead of touching it, he suddenly dropped to the floor and rolled. In one smooth motion, he pulled the fighting rod from his belt and extended it. Now, he shouted to Da-hyun. Da-hyun lifted Minji and ran toward the light pillar. The soldiers raised their guns. Don't shoot near the pillar, Du-yun yelled. You might damage it. Taiho swung his rod in a wide arc, hitting 2 soldiers in the legs. They fell hard. Another soldier tried to grab him, but Taiho was too fast. He struck the man in the chest, then spun to face Du Yun. Still surprised that zoologists know how to fight, Taiho asked. Not at all, Du Yun replied. I always knew Earth's zoologists were really spies. Why else would we train you in combat and tactics? Around them, the remaining Karos began to move. They flowed from the shadows like living darkness. The soldiers fired at them, but their shots passed through the creatures' shifting bodies. Taiho struck another soldier, then ran to a wall where strange plants grew in glass tubes. He smashed the tubes with his rod. Green liquid spilled out. The native plants are highly flammable, he called to Da-hyun. Use your gun. Da-hyun aimed his gun at the spilled liquid and fired. Blue fire spread quickly across the floor. The soldiers backed away from the flames. Du Yun shouted orders, trying to control the chaos. The Karos moved among the soldiers, their dark bodies flowing like water. More soldiers fell. Taiho fought his way to the light pillar where Da-hyun protected Minji. She was sitting up now, looking stronger. The fire won't last long, Taiho said. We need a better plan. What about that? Minji pointed to a symbol on the floor near the pillar. It looked like the one the Karos had touched earlier. Taiho pressed his hand to the symbol. The floor beneath the symbol began to glow. A voice spoke from the walls in a language Taiho somehow understood. Genetic verification accepted. Administrator access granted. The light pillar changed color, turning from white to gold. The room shook slightly. What's happening? Da-hyun asked. I don't know, Taiho admitted, but I think the vault recognizes me. Du Yun pushed through the chaos toward them. His face was angry. Stop what you're doing, Taiho. You don't know what forces you're playing with. Neither do you, Taiho replied. That's the problem. He placed his hand fully into the light pillar. This time, instead of seeing images, he felt knowledge pour directly into his mind. Understanding filled him. I know what to do, he said calmly. He closed his eyes and focused his thoughts. The room's shaking increased. The walls began to glow with the same golden light as the pillar. Security protocols activated. The voice announced. Unauthorized personnel will be removed. Du Yun's face showed fear for the first time. What have you done? Taiho looked at him with determination. What I was sent here to do. Protect knowledge that's too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. Around them, the golden light grew brighter, and the fate of the vault, and everyone in it, hung in the balance. The golden light filled the vault room. Du Yun and his soldiers froze in place, unable to move. The Karos gathered around Taiho, Minji, and Da-hyun, forming a protective circle. What's happening to them? Minji asked, looking at the frozen soldiers. The vault's security system, Taiho explained. It won't hurt them. It's just holding them. The knowledge from the light pillar still flowed through Taiho's mind. He understood now why he could access the vault when others couldn't. I'm a direct descendant of the scientists who built this place, he said. The genetic markers in my blood are like a key. So what happens now? Da-hyun asked. Tai-ho walked to Du-yun, who could only move his eyes. The vault has given me a choice. I can seal it again and hide all this knowledge, or I can share it carefully, piece by piece, with people who will use it wisely. The largest Keros approached them. Its dark body seemed stronger now, more solid. Old danger returns, it said. Humans still fight humans, not ready for all knowledge. You're right, Tai-ho agreed. We're not ready for everything, but maybe we're ready for some things. He turned back to the light pillar and placed his hand in it again. This time, he sent his own thoughts into the system. I want to establish a research center here, he told Da-hyun and Min-ji. Not just for humans, but for all species who want to learn. We'll study the safe technologies first. Things that can help people, not weapons. The golden light dimmed slightly. The voice spoke again. Modified protocol accepted. Limited access granted. Du-yun and his soldiers could move again, but their weapons had disappeared. The vault had removed them. You can't do this, Du-yun said angrily. This technology belongs to Earth. No, Tai-ho replied firmly. It belongs to everyone. The ancient humans destroyed themselves by thinking the way you do. He touched another symbol on the wall. A large image appeared showing a map of the galaxy. Dozens of red points glowed on different planets. There are more vaults like this one, Tai-ho explained, each with different pieces of the ancient human knowledge. The Keros guard them all. And now, they're all waking up. You've doomed Earth to mediocrity, Du-yun spat. Other species will find these vaults. They'll use the weapons against us. Tai-ho shook his head. The vaults will only open for human DNA with the right markers. And I'm sending a message to all of them right now. They'll only share knowledge that brings peace, not war. 3 days later, the missing colonists returned to the settlement. They were confused but unarmed. The Keros had released them once they understood that Tai-ho was the one they had been waiting for. Director Lee was shocked when Tai-ho explained everything. She was even more surprised when ships from Earth arrived with scientists instead of more soldiers. Earth Command changed their minds quickly, she remarked. They didn't have much choice, Tai-ho said with a small smile. Not after I sent my report to every major government in the galaxy. The research center grew quickly. Scientists from 20 different species came to study the ancient human technology. The Keros worked alongside them as guides and guardians. Min-ji recovered from her wound and became the center's chief medical officer. Da-hyun decided to stay too, helping with security. One evening, 6 months after they had found the vault, Tai-ho stood on a hill overlooking the new buildings of the research center. Min-ji joined him, her medical bag replaced by a tablet computer. I just got a message from one of the other vaults, she said. It was opened yesterday on a planet called Rigel 7. By a human? Tai-ho asked. Min-ji nodded. Another zoologist. Actually, seems your profession isn't just about studying animals after all. Tai-ho smiled. It never was. Earth has been sending zoologists to planets across the galaxy for centuries. We're explorers, diplomats, and when needed, protectors. They looked up at the stars together. Somewhere out there, other vaults were waiting. Other pieces of humanity's ancient legacy. Other chances to do better this time. I think I need a new job title, Tai-ho said. Galactic Zoologist doesn't quite cover it anymore. How about Keeper of Ancient Knowledge? Min-ji suggested. Too formal, Tai-ho laughed. But I'll think of something. Behind them, the vault glowed softly in the evening light, a beacon of hope for a better future.